I wasn't looking for anything. I filed the FOIA request 8 months ago. A slow Tuesday, a case I'd read about once, a form that took 4 minutes to submit. Then I forgot about it entirely. The envelope came on a Tuesday. Standard Manila. Government return address. I almost threw it out. I flipped to the last page first. I don't know why. The access log. Rows of entries dated 1987, 1988, 1989, 1991. Then nothing. A gap of 33 years. Then 3 entries. Last week. The final timestamp was 3 days ago. I stood in my kitchen and read it 4 times. I counted the rows. I checked the header. The document number matched the one on my FOIA confirmation email. This was the file I requested. This was the access log for a case that should have been closed before I was old enough to read. Somebody touched this file on a Thursday, 3 days before it arrived in my mailbox. I told myself there was an explanation. I stood there and told myself that for a while. The envelope was 214 pages. The body of the file was almost entirely redacted. Black bars over everything. Names, dates, locations gone. But the access log at the back was clean. Every row visible. 6 entries total. 5 from 1987 to 1991. And then, after a silence of 3 decades, 3 more. The last row had no name in the agent field. Just a badge number I didn't recognize and a timestamp. March 19th, 2024, 11:42 a.m. That was a Thursday. 3 days before the postmark on the envelope sitting on my counter. The file was accessed after it was already in the mail to me. The original case opened in March 1987. A woman named Carol went missing from a town in rural Ohio. She was 34. She had a job, a car, a fixed address. She was not a person who disappeared easily. The FBI opened a file because her employer at the time had federal contracts. That was the jurisdictional hook. That was why there was a file at all. In August 1989, a body was recovered from a drainage basin 11 miles from her last known address. The identification took 4 months. In December 1989, the body was confirmed as Carol. The case moved from missing persons to homicide. The file stayed open. In 1991, a death declaration was entered. A newspaper in the county seat ran a 4-paragraph story. No arrest, no named suspect. The investigation, as far as any public record showed, went cold. The file should have been closed. I went to the FBI FOIA portal to cross-reference. The portal is public. Anyone can access it. You put in a case number and it tells you the file's current status. I put in the number from my documents. The status field read, active ongoing. I stared at that for a moment. Active, not historical, not closed, not archived. Active and ongoing as of the moment I was looking at it. 33 years after the death declaration was filed and a woman's name appeared in a 4-paragraph newspaper story that nobody read. I took a screenshot. I checked the case number twice against my documents. It matched. The portal had a last updated timestamp in the corner of the page. It read March 18th, 2024. That was the day before the final entry in my access log. 2 separate federal systems, 2 separate records, both touched within a 24-hour window. A week before I opened the envelope, the file was listed as active on a federal portal anyone can access. The access log showed 3 entries from last week. That was before I made any calls. I called the FOIA Public Liaison Office at 9:14 a.m. on a Wednesday. The person who answered was polite. I explained that I had received documents with an access log showing recent entries on a file that should have been closed in 1991. I gave them the case number. I read them the timestamps. There was a pause. Then I was told that access log metadata was not within the scope of a standard FOIA response, that entries in access logs could reflect routine system processes rather than human interaction, and that if I had concerns about the integrity of my response packet, I could file an administrative appeal. I asked what routine system process would generate a specific badge number in the agent field. I was told someone would follow up. No one followed up. That afternoon, I posted a single question on a public records forum I'd used before. I didn't include the case number. I asked in general terms whether others had seen recent access log entries on FOIA responses for files that should have been administratively closed. I described the field structure I was seeing. 40 minutes later, I refreshed the FBI FOIA portal. The status had changed. It no longer said active ongoing. It said sealed exemption 7A. Exemption 7A applies to records compiled for law enforcement purposes when disclosure could reasonably be expected to interfere with enforcement proceedings. Enforcement proceedings. The case from 1987. The woman found in a drainage basin in 1989. The death declaration from 1991. Active enforcement proceedings. I still had my screenshot from that morning. The one that said active ongoing. I have it. It exists. The portal no longer shows what it showed 6 hours earlier. But the 3 access log entries in my physical documents, I already had those. Those were already printed, already in the envelope, already sitting on my counter. Something had been sealed, but the record of it had already left the building. The portal said sealed. The documents on my desk said something different. Those 2 things are both true. I went back to the 3 new access log entries, the ones from last week. I'd been reading them as data points. I hadn't looked at them closely enough. The 1987 through 1991 entries used a specific field structure. 7 columns. Agent ID, date, time, action code, file section, authorization level, terminal ID. That was the format for the original FBI paper-to-digital migration that happened in the mid-1980s. The 3 new entries did not use that structure. They used 9 columns. The additional fields were a geolocation tag and a network node identifier. Those fields did not exist in the FBI's database architecture until the 2015 Records Management System overhaul. The documentation is publicly available on the FBI's own records management page. Someone entered these records using a post-2015 system interface. They did not inherit this format from a legacy migration. A person sat down at a terminal or accessed a system remotely and created these entries. 3 times in the past week, I looked at the geolocation tag in the final entry. It was not a building. It was not a field office. It was a coordinate pair. 38 degrees, 54 minutes, 22 seconds north. 77 degrees, 2 minutes, 8 seconds west. I put those coordinates into Google Maps. The pin landed on my block, not my city, not my neighborhood in general terms. My block, the 200-foot stretch of street where my building sits. I sat with that for a long time. I kept looking for the mistake. I re-entered the coordinates twice. I checked whether I'd transposed a digit. I hadn't. The geolocation tag in the final access log entry of a 37-year-old FBI file resolves to the block where I live. I don't know what that field is supposed to record. I don't know if it logs where the file was accessed from, or where the subject of the file was located, or something else entirely. I don't know which answer is worse. I have not received any further communication. No follow-up call from the FOIA liaison. No administrative response. Nothing. The portal still says sealed exemption 7A. It has said that since the afternoon I posted on the forum. I check it most days. 3 days ago, I noticed the manila envelope was gone from my desk. I want to be precise about this. I am not saying someone took it. I am saying I cannot find it. I have looked. The envelope was sitting on the left side of my desk, beneath a yellow legal pad, on top of a stack of printed research. I can see where it was. The stack of paper has an indentation in it, or a rectangle, the exact dimensions of a manila envelope, pressed into the top sheet from the weight of 214 pages sitting there for several days. The envelope is not there. I uploaded scans of all 214 pages before it disappeared. The scans exist. The access log exists in those scans. The 3 entries from last week exist. The coordinate pair in the final row exists. I have those files on 2 separate drives and in a cloud account. The physical document is gone. I have been trying to think about this the way I would want someone to explain it to me. You misplaced it. You moved it and forgot. It slid somewhere. These things happen. I keep looking at the indentation in the paper. I'm going to submit a second FOIA request. The process allows you to request records about yourself. Any file the FBI has opened or maintained that includes your name, your address, your identifying information. I submitted that request this morning. I don't know what comes back. I don't know how long the gap will be before someone touches that file.